You are listening to the ADHD Support Talk Radio podcast. ADHD Support Talk Radio is sponsored by ADDclasses.com. Sign up now for free webinars and events by going to www.addclasses.com. ADHD Support Talk Radio is the longest running podcast for adults with ADHD. My name is Tara McGillicuddy, and I am the founder and the co-host of ADHD Support Talk Radio. I'm a woman with ADHD. I also offer ADHD coaching. I've been involved with the online ADHD support community since 1997. You can learn more about me and the products and services I offer by going to my website, taramcgillicuddy.com. So today we're going to be talking about RSD and imposter syndrome. And we have with us Jamie Cutino. So, Jamie, before we get started talking about our topic, can you let our listeners know a little bit about yourself and how they can get in touch with you after listening to the episode?
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me, Tara. It really means a lot. So, I am a two-time TED speaker. I am the founder of Outsmart ADHD, which does coaching, speaking, and I also have a podcast, Outsmart ADHD. And the way you can get a hold of me is going on my website, outsmartadhd.co.
Okay. So this is a great topic, overcoming RSD and imposter syndrome. So let's get started. I guess the first thing is, what is RSD, or rejection sensitivity dysphoria? And what is imposter syndrome?
Yeah, so RSD, sensitive dysphoria, is this absolute visceral response to perceived rejection. It is not actually when you are being rejected most of the time. Think of a time that somebody didn't text you back soon enough and you think, oh my gosh, they hate me now. Your head goes into a spiral. You're sick to your stomach. You might get a headache. It's an absolute visceral response to a perceived rejection. And RSD happens in ADHDers not necessarily because of being rejected exponentially more than a neurotypical person per research, but because of how our brain is wired, which is very different than a neurotypical brain. So we are going to perceive rejection a lot more indifferently than someone who is neurotypical. So if you're a visual person, imagine I think it's called a Venn diagram, where you have the two overlapping circles. And on one side, you have rejection. The other side, you have emotions. And the inner lap of them is RSD. And it's super duper common in ADHDers. So that's what RSD is. Imposter syndrome is the feeling of, okay, I'm going to be found out. I'm not actually supposed to be doing this thing. An example of that could be maybe you just got a new job and you feel like, okay, I'm not even qualified for this position. It doesn't matter that you have more degrees than a thermometer. It doesn't matter that maybe you've been doing this free for other people for years now, but you feel like you're going to be found out. And imposter syndrome, what causes it? It's multifaceted. One, everyone experiences imposter syndrome. It's definitely not specific to ADHD. And you're going to experience imposter syndrome more when you are doing something new, which is why when you have ADHD, you're likely going to experience it more than maybe a neurotypical person, because what do we need to stay happy? Or, happy is relative. We need new experiences constantly. We need novelty to keep our brain stimulated. So therefore, we're putting ourselves in these positions where we're constantly growing and therefore feeling imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome means you're doing something new, not that you're not supposed to be there. But when you have ADHD, we also have this fun facet of, you've been told that you've been doing things wrong your entire life, especially for those of us who are late diagnosed. So you go your entire life thinking there's something just fundamentally wrong with yourself as a human. And of course, how are you going to feel confident about anything that you do in life when you have decades of that programming? So it's multifaceted. We're going to experience it a lot more as ADHDers because of constantly putting ourselves in new situations, but also because we have decades of evidence to tell us we're
Yeah.
doing something wrong, even when we're not.
I've heard the term imposter syndrome. I've been doing this for 20 plus years, but
Yeah.
RSD is a relatively new term in the ADHD world, maybe the past few years. It could be the past 10 years. I don't know. But
Yeah.
imposter syndrome, I think, is something people with ADHD and human beings in general, I think they've been hearing that term for a long time. But
Yeah.
the RSD is relatively new. So I'm really glad that you're talking about it. And the fact that you're bringing the two together, I haven't heard those two combined in a talks, and it makes perfect sense to bring them together.
Yeah, I feel unfortunately the combination of the two, especially for people with ADHD, can really keep them from even attempting their really big goals.
Yeah.
And especially as ADHDers, like I said, we need novelty, we need newness, and we're constantly dreaming up big ideas. But sometimes it's not even just the executive dysfunction getting in the way of executing that goal. It's
Mhm.
imposter syndrome, it's RSD, it's the mix of the two.
Yeah.
And before you even get started, you've already talked yourself out of it.
And those 2 can be paralyzing. It's not even necessarily
Mhm.
that you actually talk yourself out of it, your brain becomes paralyzed in a
Yeah.
sense. And I think some people, they don't a lot of people just automatically go on to the next thing, or they don't live up to they don't move forward with their goal, with their dream, with their vision.
Yeah.
And I think this is gonna really help people that it's common. These are things that have a name, and if it has a name, I'm guessing there's some strategies to get past it.
Absolutely. With rejection sensitive dysphoria, it's funny because I titled this talk like how to overcome RSD, but really evidence shows that we're not ever truly going to overcome RSD because it stems from how our brain is
Yes.
fundamentally wired. But there is a big correlation between how you feel about yourself as a person and how often and how strong you're going to perceive rejection sensitive dysphoria.
Yes.
I don't know if you've had that earlier in your journey, that you've personally experienced a lot more rejection sensitive dysphoria versus who you are now, having worked
Yes.
on yourself over decades.
Yeah. I used to label it as I took things too personally. And I remember years ago, I was involved in one of the non for profit organizations, and I just thought people were rejecting me. They didn't like me. I
Mhm.
took it personally. I remember somebody who was big in the field just said to me one day, Tara, these people are so bleeded up, so disorganized. It's not you. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. Then the term RSD came along, and I'm like, oh, that's what it is. And I'm also an empath, and I'm one of these people who feels other people's energy. So you
Mhm.
take that combined with the RSD, no wonder, like, I just thought, like, the world was out to get me, but
Yeah.
I took things so personally, and it's really connected to this.
It's exhausting, it's draining. In that very moment when you feel like you're being rejected, a lot of times it'll bring a really big spurt of anger. And it's so important as ADHDers that we find ways to feel better about ourselves and not have that visceral reaction as much, especially as business owners,
Yes.
especially as business owners who cater to an ADHD
My gosh,
population.
yes, yes.
Because guess what? Your clients are not always going to remember to get back to you.
No,
They're
no.
not always going to remember to respond to the email. They're not even always going to remember to come to your coaching call that you had
Yes, yes, yes.
scheduled. And it has nothing to do with you. It also is just how their brain is wired and for forgetting things. Yeah, I wanted to say that's another reason why it's so important to overcome it or not overcome it, but have it not overtake your life.
Yeah.
Strategies, yes. First line of defense I would recommend is finding people with a similar brain who struggle with this and surround yourself with those people. Because when you first understand that you are not crazy, and this happens to everybody with ADHD, you're going to feel so seen. And feeling seen and understanding where it comes from is the first step of anything that you want to overcome. We have to know where does it even begin? And if this is really impacting your daily life, if it's impacting your goals, I would highly recommend getting the professional support that you need
Mm.
to move forward. I would highly recommend someone who is trained specifically in ADHD. If you're looking for an ADHD coach, as you and I know, Tara, there's a lot of people that call themselves ADHD
Yes,
coaches and
yes,
they're not necessarily qualified.
yes.
Somebody who has a very strong understanding of ADHD, who understands internalized ableism, who can help you to really have a greater self-esteem and like yourself more, quite frankly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when you like yourself more, you're a whole lot less prone to that.
Yeah. A mental health professional, especially I think someone who understands ADHD and maybe uses some type of cognitive behavioral therapy could also be beneficial for this, depending on how greatly it impacts life. I think all people, if they find all human beings, if they find the right match, mental health professional, a coach, other
Yeah.
types of professionals, they can make a world of difference.
World of a difference. I know I personally have an ADHD coach and a mental health therapist, and one doesn't replace the other. They
Yeah.
work incredibly well in tandem, though. And it also really helps if your mental health therapist also has ADHD, which I've experienced having a neurotypical therapist and then one that has ADHD, and that's also makes a world of difference, which just goes back to surround yourself with people with ADHD. But yeah, I would say really step one is no matter it, you can find your people no matter how much extra resources you have. You can go and find a Facebook group that has people who understand you, and that costs exactly $0. It'll cost a few minutes to go and search up some Facebook groups. And if you don't want to search for one, just go to my website. You'll find one there. I have the link to my group. But also to find that professional help. And I will tell you that even if you're tight on finances, the right person is going to exponentially get you your return on investment.
Yes. Yes.
Because think about it, we have such big goals. If our RSD and imposter syndrome got in the way of us launching our businesses, Tara, can you even imagine how different our lives would be?
Oh, yeah. In addition to doing ADHD, I am also a metaphysical spiritual person.
Yeah.
And it took me 9 years to get out there professionally because part of it was imposter syndrome, part of it was RSD, part of it was what are people going to think if I did this?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, in the ideas that I come up with, I probably could have helped more people. I probably could have been more successful if I even knew RSD was a thing and I found ways to get past it. And for me, I think I know some people, the rejection, I know with me, I sometimes get into a fight or flight type of mode with RSD.
Absolutely.
And ignoring people isn't a good thing. But when I tell people off and send mean, nasty emails, it's not good for business. So
It's really not.
no. And I think it can, and I think everyone, how it affects you. And being on the other end of it, where people, I do something that upsets someone or some of those emails can be biting and nasty. But when I take a deep breath and realize, okay, this person is going through something, maybe it's
Yeah.
RSD, maybe it's past trauma, maybe I just rubbed them the wrong way because I didn't make sense that day. So it really does impact us. And yeah, I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm successful, but I have challenges people don't always see. Some of them see it, and I don't wish they didn't see it or wish they didn't read that email, but it affects me.
Absolutely. It's going to affect us our entire lives. The level to which it affects us
Yes.
can be improved. But I think it's so important for people that are listening to think, oh, when I get to Tara's level of success, I'm not going to feel this anymore. Or if I get to Jamie's level of success and I'm
Yeah.
on 10 stages, oh, of course not. We're still experiencing it.
I think we come out of it quicker. We have strategies. It's okay. Yeah. Is it realistically what really went on? No, they don't hate you. Maybe. And then
Yeah.
every once in a while, like somebody didn't answer an email and like,
Uh-huh.
I'll look and then like they're like, I was going through a crazy life at the time in my life. I was doing this. Or I was talking to somebody yesterday and I thought so and so was ignoring me. We finally talked. And for some reason, my email was blacklisted and blocked. So it's like stuff like that where it's not always you like usually more than often it's not them
Mhm.
rejecting you. If they are, why do you want to be around that person anyways? That's the thing. If
Yeah.
they're truly jerks mean and they're really rejecting you, not going about it a nice way, then I really don't want those people in my life anymore.
No, and that also takes confidence in just knowing that you are a worthy person to be able to have those boundaries.
Yes.
Because look, those boundaries are not taught to us, especially as ADHDers. We are
No.
conditioned to be people pleasers.
Yep.
We're conditioned that the only thing that we have to give is our successes, which is why a lot of us become chronic overachievers
Yes.
and head
Yes.
towards burnout.
Yes.
Feeling good about yourself goes even deeper than RSD and imposter syndrome. It's the people that you allow to be in your life, which can perpetuate either really good feelings about yourself or really
Yeah.
not good
Yeah.
feelings about yourself.
Yeah, boundaries are key to this,
Yeah.
and effective, healthy boundaries. Sometimes I set up boundaries, but I put like a whole bridge and a moat where people can't get to me. I'll have boundaries.
Yeah.
They're too intense.
Yep.
So it's fine. And the thing is, your boundary with one situation, one type of person, you have to tweak it around. And I think that's something you learn, and life changes. And the boundaries we had pre COVID, I think in most situations are a bit different after COVID now. Like the
Yeah.
world changed.
The world absolutely changed. And if you're wondering what kind of boundaries to put around somebody, I teach this in one of my master classes. The people that the people that really respect boundaries, you can give them more context to a situation and they're not going to use it against you.
Yeah.
The people who really want the context are likely to use it against you, and you should have stricter boundaries around
Yeah.
them. So if you need help conceptualizing it, think about person A is your sister who doesn't really care that you are really busy and you're running a business or you have kids or just you're exhausted, period. And she wants all of your time. Person B is your best friend who loves and adores you and knows that you have ADHD and thinks that's a really cool thing about you. Now, your sister, if you tell her, no, I can't come over today, she's probably going to want a lot. She's going to want the reason why. Your best friend likely isn't going to care. And they're just going to respect that it's a no. But you can give some context to that best friend, even though they're not really going to want it. But the person who really wants that context, no is a complete sentence for
Yes.
that.
Yes. Yes.
Because I think a lot of times as ADHDers, we think that if we explain ourselves enough, if they
Yes.
understand,
Yes.
then it will stop. But that's not the case. Them understanding is not the problem.
No, I do find that people with ADHD have a tendency to over explain. And
Yeah.
usually, what I find happens if people want to know more, they'll ask you more. And then
Yeah.
you decide whether you give it or not. Where sometimes we just, and like, sometimes people are like, what are you talking about? They lose track or they tune you out. They didn't hear it anyways. So,
Yeah.
yeah, like I said, no is a perfect answer. No is no. Yeah, just simply say no. Practicing saying no, I think, is very beneficial for us. And I recommend start with somebody you feel comfortable with. Say no to them, then gradually move up to the people you're afraid to say no to.
Yeah. Yeah. Because those people that you're afraid to say no to are really the people that
Yeah.
we desperately need to say no to.
Yeah.
And if it's a skill that you don't end up learning, you're gonna head towards burnout
Yes.
because you will say yes to everybody but yourself. And
Yeah.
probably most people that are listening to this have experienced burnout at least one time in their life.
Mm.
It's debilitating.
Oh, it is. Yes, it is.
And yeah, that's why it's just so important to learn boundaries so that you can learn how to say no. I used to be a chronic people pleaser. You wouldn't know that looking at me now, but my gosh, I am so good at saying no these days.
It's funny. I thought I was a people pleaser, but somebody said, You're not trying to please people, you're trying to be accepted by people." And I'm like, I never really thought there was a difference, but the way we go about it is very similar. But I was never the one to please, but I wanted to be accepted. Now I just turned 50 and I really don't care who accepts me. I don't want to upset people. I don't want to
Yeah.
burn any bridges. I don't need to be burned. But I think sometimes with maturity, with therapy, with just learning
Mhm.
things, you get to the point where I really don't need to please other people, or I don't really care if
Mhm.
those people accept me. But it
Yeah.
takes practice, it takes healing and learning about yourself and stuff like that. Usually, I know you can't say it doesn't always happen overnight, but in most cases, it does not happen overnight.
If you have a case that's happened overnight, please let me know and I will write a whole book about that case
Yeah.
study.
Yes.
So that's incredible. Please teach us how to do it. Like, Tara, you and I will be billionaires just
Yeah.
teaching people how to overcome that overnight. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's a journey.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Oh, definitely. A journey is a great word. And Jamie, what is the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Go to outsmartadhd.co. And if you're looking for another fun podcast, go to the Outsmart ADHD podcast.
Thank you so much, Jamie. And thank you, everyone, for taking the time to listen to this episode of the ADHD Support Talk Radio podcast. And my name is Tara McGillicuddy. I am the founder and the co host of ADHD Support Talk Radio. And remember, ADHD Support Talk Radio is sponsored by ADDclasses.com. You can sign up for free webinars and free helpful ADHD support events by going to addclasses.com. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen.